So after nearly a whole summer of pursuing him, Manchester United have now signed Antony from Ajax for a fee of £84 million, which by anybody's viewpoint is a massive overpayment. I did a video on Antony a few months back where I said that Antony was probably worth between £35 and £40 million, but now Manchester United have dropped more than double that on him. But before I get into that, I have got a special announcement from the sponsors of today's video, OneFootball, which is now the place where on a Saturday night, if you're in the UK or Ireland, you can watch one free Italian Serie A game each weekend. As well as this, you can also use all the other football features that I've spoken about before with OneFootball. So if you are interested in watching European football, but just don't have anywhere to watch it, then you can go to the competition page linked in the description, and you can check out the free match that will be streamed this weekend. You can also watch highlights of all the Serie A games, and near live instant clips as well whilst the games are going on. And by downloading the OneFootball app, you will be helping to support the channel. But before I analyse the fee and everything surrounding this transfer, how good is Antony actually? Well, Antony is very much a natural right winger who is left footed, but like someone like Riyad Mahrez or Arjen Robben, he isn't going to float in field between the lines. Instead, he's going to hold a wide and high position, look to receive the ball to feet and then isolate his fullback in a 1v1 situation. Now at the moment he's certainly not at the level of Robben or Mahrez just yet, but stylistically there are similarities. All three are very one-footed, and that foot of course being their left. However, despite it being pretty obvious what they want to do with the ball, which is cut inside on their stronger left foot, all three have an element of unpredictability. Maybe unpredictability is the wrong word, but what I mean is, you know what they are going to do, you just don't know when or how they will execute it. This was certainly the case with Arjen Robben, who everyone knew would always be looking to cut inside on his left foot, before looking to release a shot on goal, but due to his pace, agility and incredible close ball control, fullbacks found it incredibly hard to stop him being able to do this. Antony hasn't developed his long range shooting ability to Robben's level just yet, but it's pretty clear what he wants to do. However, over the last season or so, I do think he's begun to mix up his game, with him now being able to go down the line on his right foot more often, or look for a creative pass forward, rather than always trying to run at the fullback and cut inside on his left foot. He's an eye-catching player with his flair and trickery, the obvious thing that people first notice when watching him play. His close ball control is fantastic, which enables him to swivel and manoeuvre through congested areas on the pitch. This is something that I feel Antony doesn't quite have, as he's more of a runner than a dribbler, and what I mean by this is that his close ball control is not great, and so when taking on players with the ball at his feet, he prefers to receive the ball and then to primarily use his pace and acceleration to shift the ball past a defender and then race past them, whereas Antony is a lot more elegant and considered with his take-ons, not having to rely so much on his pace, but can instead use his quick feet to wrong foot the defender before gliding past them. This means that Antony should be a lot more effective from the flank against deep defensive units than Elanga, who I feel is much better on the counter when he's got the space in front to run into, whereas Antony can receive the ball around the box and basically stand up a defender before creating something via a cross, pass or shot. But the issue with Antony is, given that he's only 22 years old, he is much more of a moments player at this stage of his career, not yet being able to produce top level output over the course of a whole season. Antony scored 8 goals and picked up 4 assists in 23 Eredivisie games last season, whilst also managing 2 goals and 4 assists in 7 Champions League games, and in total he got 12 goals and 10 assists in 32 games across all competitions, and this is pretty good offensive output for a player who you'd still consider some way away from their peak. However, when we look further into his statistical output, you can see the kind of consistency I'm referring to. Last season in the Eredivisie, Antony only ranked 29th out of every player in the league for key passes with 1.9 per 90, which was lower than Reiss Nelson at Feyenoord, and despite being seen as a take-on wizard on the wing, he ranked only 16th for dribbles completed, recording less than the likes of Luis Sinisterra now at Leeds, and PSV's former Manchester United target Cody Gakpo. Now people may claim that these key pass and dribbling stats aren't anything to worry about because of Antony's goal scoring and assisting output. However, I always think that goals and assists are the hardest metrics to translate from one league to another. But if a player is able to rank highly for the so-called secondary metrics, like key passes, expected assists, dribbles, etc., then this tells me that they have certain offensive traits such as vision, passing, dribbling and flair, whatever it is, based more on their individual quality as a player rather than the opposition they play against. And I think this is why we often see players from the Bundesliga or Eredivisie come to the Premier League and have some kind of drop off in terms of their goals and assists quite significantly. This is a worry I have with Antony, particularly with the pressure he's going to be under immediately after stepping foot on a pitch in England because of his massive fee. I think the big move to a super club like Manchester United has come too early in Antony's career. It's not that I think all players aged 22 aren't ready for a move to Manchester United, because all players develop differently. Someone like Jude Bellingham is younger than Antony, but he's had so much high-level senior European football experience that he's subsequently developed much quicker. I also like to see players moving from the Bundesliga and the Eredivisie go to a stepping stone club before making the move to one of the big Premier League 6 or the big 3 in Spain, or even PSG as well. And this is because in general I think it does take players from these leagues longer to adapt to elite level European football. Antony is a player who I think has world-class potential, but I think he's going to be one of those players like Gnabry, Heung-min Son or Riyad Mahrez, who develop slightly slower than other players who burst onto the scene like Vinicius Jr, Pedri or Erling Haaland. Ideally, I would have liked to see Antony first go from Ajax to a club like Borussia Dortmund, Sevilla or Napoli, where he is still playing at the top level of European football, coming up against the best opponents and gaining valuable experience from it, but he also wouldn't be straight in the spotlight with immediate pressure on him to be the player that he has the potential to be. I think then 2 seasons at one of those clubs and then Antony would have been ready for that big money move to someone like Manchester United. But this doesn't mean that Antony is a bad signing, or that he won't be good enough for Manchester United right now, as we have seen another player with huge talent in João Felix begin to gradually improve even after a tough start to a new club who paid such a huge fee for him. So I would say it's more down to expectation. I think a lot of Manchester United fans and football fans in general are going to be expecting Antony to come into the Premier League and immediately be one of the star players alongside De Bruyne, Haaland, Salah, Son and co. However, in reality I think Antony should be being compared to players like Bukayo Saka, Julian Alvarez and Dejan Kulusevski, who have come into the league from abroad and from the youth setups and have huge potential and do have the ability to produce top level output, but aren't expected to produce this week in week out as other attackers in the league are. This allows them to develop slightly off the radar, without the constant analysis and pressure that Antony's first few performances will receive at Manchester United. I do however think that if United manage expectations with him and don't put all the pressure on their performances onto him, which I don't think will happen as much as it did with Jadon Sancho and even Marcus Rashford last season, then he should have a smooth development path to the top level, especially because I feel like the role he's going to be asked to play for Ten Hag in that 4-2-3-1 system is one that he's perfectly suited to. Ten Hag, as I've said in numerous previous videos, likes to use 2 natural wingers in the attack who hold advanced wide positions until they get into the box at least, rather than using wide playmakers who drift in between the lines, or wide or inside forwards who tend to hold more centrally high positions and look to make movements in behind the back line into goal scoring positions. The wingers in Ten Hag's system this season, Elanga and Sancho and Rashford in the second half against Liverpool, though you could argue he played more as an inside forward in that game, are primarily in the team to progress the ball into the final third and box and create chances from those wide positions instead of being the goal scorers in the team. This would allow Ten Hag to have, say, Sancho and Antony on the flanks holding the width and utilising Malacia and Dalot as inverted fullbacks who hold deep and narrower positions in possession alongside Casemiro, therefore allowing the central midfielders ahead of the Brazilian to be more offensively minded, holding higher positions between the lines because of the inverted fullbacks acting as defensive security behind them. Antony on the right can be used as a direct outlet to isolate the opposition left back in a 1v1 and look to drive past him into a goal scoring or goal creating position. Elanga was playing this role against Liverpool from the left side up against Trent Alexander-Arnold. However, Antony is much better at beating his man in a 1v1, and so this should allow Ten Hag to use the flanks as a very viable attacking outlet when United are struggling to break down a side through the centre of the pitch. It almost seemed like natural wingers were dying out, with sides preferring to use inside forwards like Klopp uses at Liverpool with Mane and Salah for example, or wide playmakers like Eden Hazard or Neymar, and this evolution of the wide attacker really started with fullbacks being required to overlap more, providing not just the width in the system but also the attacking output from the flank. But now we are seeing leading tactical minds in the game like Guardiola, Ten Hag and even Klopp at times reverting to the use of natural wingers in a front three, or in the three behind the main striker, and having the fullbacks invert and retain deeper, more defensively secure positions in possession, and so the burden of driving past players on the flanks and creating goal scoring opportunities from crossing positions has now fallen back onto the wide attackers as wingers. I think Antony falls into this category of wide attackers who really are solely natural wingers, who don't really ever drift infield during a structured attacking phase. You could also say this for Riyad Mahrez, potentially Leroy Sané, Ousmane Dembele, Adama Traore and Saint-Maximin at Newcastle, who I feel are all exceptional ball carriers and dribblers, and if you have this type of player in your side, you should be trying to maximise this ability by targeting the opposition's defensive weakness, and nowadays a lot of fullbacks struggle in one-on-one situations, especially when they get pushed back into into their own box. And this really is a specialist position. It's very unlikely that a player who is not already a winger, or has not at least been used to playing as a winger throughout his career, develops the pace, power and dribbling ability needed to fully perform this winger role at the highest level. This is often why wingers are football fans' favourite players, as they bring the flair and trickery that isn't seen much at the highest level now due to the intensity and efficiency of the modern game. But Antony is a unique player. He embodies exactly what a Brazilian winger should be. He's not the tallest, around 5'9", but being an incredible dribbler on his day, was also being able to pull off FIFA Street-like skills during the game, and accompany this with his ability to cut inside and bend a curling shot into the far corner. And you have a player who could be exactly what Manchester United fans had hoped Nani would turn out to be. Nani was a player without doubt that had periods where he was elite, but like Antony at this stage of his career, I feel that for long parts of Nani's Manchester United tenure, he was on the cusp of really moving into that top level bracket, but just needed the full consistency over 18 to maybe 24 months. Arguably his best season came in 2010-2011 when he won United's Players Player of the Year, scoring 9 and assisting 14 in the Premier League. Like Antony, Nani was a winger who provided the ball progression through his trickery and dribbling, but after being at United for a few seasons, Nani was able to transition from a player who occasionally would score a worldie or perform a moment of magic to the player he became in 2010-2011, who could be consistently relied upon not just to be an exceptional ball progressor, but also someone who could rack up high goal contribution numbers as well. Antony to me is like Nani in 2007, a player with huge raw potential who probably needs a season or two to fully acclimatise to the Premier League, but even still over those years he will show in moments a player that he can become. It's just whether United can manage expectations, not abandon him through tough spells and gradually improve his game. He perfectly suits what Ten Hag is looking for in a winger, so it's not a Donny van de Beek, Paul Pogba situation where the manager ends up using a player in a role which he isn't really naturally suited to. Antony really is the ideal right winger for Ten Hag, which is hardly surprising considering he played so well for him at Ajax. The fee is obviously wildly inflated, so in this circumstance I think you have to separate the player from the fee, and in that case I'd have to say it is a good signing, but when you consider that Manchester United have spent £145 million on Casemiro and Antony, you do have to wonder what they could have done with that money had they properly planned at the start of the summer.